Welcome to the Task Centre Notifications and Alerts how-to video. Over the next couple of minutes, I will show you how simple it is to produce a notification and alerting task. But firstly, let's take some time to look at the key concepts of Task Centre, which are tasks and steps. A task is an element of a distinct business process, which is visually modelled in Task Centre through the composition of logical steps. These are then linked together to form the complete task. A step is created using a number of tools which allow you to create specific functions within our simple-to-use drag-and-drop interface. Okay, so how do these tools operate with your information system or database store? Firstly, there are a set of tools that enable your Task Centre administrator to define the preferred trigger point, like a time-based event, instantaneous data change, or monitored proprietary event stream. Once a trigger has occurred, associated data can then be simply extracted for subsequent use in the chosen predefined output content. The data is then formatted, using your chosen tool to display the most effective presentation. And finally, an output method is chosen, and a mode of recipient's addressing is easily defined. Let's take a practical look at how to create a notifications and alerting task. To begin with, we'll right-click in the task pane, select New Task and give it a name. We then select the Design tab, which is our blank canvas for this task. To trigger this task, we'll need to select the appropriate event tool, and we'll be using the Microsoft SQL Trigger tool in this example. To do this, we simply select the tool from our Events menu and drag and drop it onto our design area. In the General tab, we can specify a name and then click onto the Main tab. We now need to select our SQL Server, and then either input our login and password, or as in this case, tick Use Trusted Connection. We then select our table or view from our database by using the Browse button. As you can see, we now have a choice of all the SQL databases on this server. For our notification, we are selecting the Sage 200 database, and our required table is PL Supplier Bank. Let's highlight this table and click OK. We now move on to our Trigger tab. As you can see, we now have numerous choices, but in this example, we're looking for updates or insertion to a supplier's bank account number. OK. Let's tick Update and Insert as the trigger types, and leave the order and frequency at the set defaults. We now need to point to the field that we wish to monitor, and in this instance we are choosing account number. It is worth noting that you can click the Script tab and view the SQL Task Centre has created for us. Should you require it, you can freehand type this manually. Before we move on to the next step, we'll need to create two variables. These are created in our browser under the Environment tab. Right-click on the variable node and select New. Give your variable a meaningful name, like Old Bank Account Number for example, and then click Details. This example uses a variant data type. As we are passing data to the variable, we tick Parameter and select In and Out. The scope will remain as Task Instance. Now click on OK, and let's repeat the above process for the new bank account number variable that will be required for this notification. Next, we need to reopen the Microsoft SQL Trigger tool and map our variables to the correct columns. On the Trigger tab in the Map Variable to Task Parameter pane, you'll see the variables we have created. We can now map them to the column returned by the trigger to allow the old account number to be mapped to the deleted account number. The new account number is now mapped to the inserted account number. Let's save this by clicking OK. In the next step, our Choice of Data Query tool will allow us to return the account information from the database. We will do this using the OLADB tool. In the General tab, we will drop down the connection and select our database. Next, click on the Query tab, and as you can see, every table, field and view is returned. To return the supplier company name, we need a query that returns more columns than the Microsoft SQL Trigger tool provides. OK, let's choose the two tables where the data is held. In this instance, we want account number and supplier account name. As you can see, we have two tables in the joins pane. With certain databases, the joins between the tables are generated automatically. With most databases, you will normally have to map these yourself. OK, just to illustrate how to do this, we'll right-click and delete the join, and then it's as simple as mapping the supplier ID to the supplier ID. If I right-click, you can see the different types of joins that are available. Finally, we need to create a criteria, and we simply select the field from the column pane and drop it into the criteria pane. In this instance, I'm looking for any accounts with new account numbers that do not match the old one. We also need to eliminate any empty fields, and therefore I have chosen to ignore any null quantities. Finally, to aid reference, we can also sort this information alphabetically. Let's click on OK to save this, and let's connect these steps together. The final part is selecting the preferred output method, and we're going to choose SMTP email. OK, we don't need to do anything on the General tab, so let's get straight onto the Main tab. Firstly, we need to choose whom this notification is coming from. In this instance, we're choosing a one-off email address, but you can select MAPI, internal, or dynamic addressees. Which also applies for the CC and the blind carbon copy options. Let's give this an eye-catching subject line. And create our message by freehand typing in this area. By simply dragging and dropping, we can dynamically populate the email. Let's drag in our account name field, and the variable of the old account number, and the newly inputted one. We will now go into our ERP system and change a supplier's account number to see the results. And there we have it. The task is complete and is now monitoring the bank account fields of all of our suppliers for any updates or insertions. Thank you for watching one of our how-to series of notifications and alerts videos. We welcome you back to watch more in this series or other related videos such as report and document automation, data integration and synchronization, and workflow and human interaction.